Hello again, Struckweb. Today I will be bringing you another class skills showcase for Torchlight 3, and this one would be the Railmaster Skills Showcase, in which I would start by showing you first the train car skills and then Ghost Train, which is in the Conductor 3, and eventually all of the Slammer skills. You can check the description for the timestamps if you want to skip to a specific skill. And I would also be showing you some synergies of items that hopefully help some of you realize whether you want to use this or that skill in your build, and whether you want to use this item when using that skill, and so on. So let's start with the most basic train building skill, the build train. So with this one you're basically making standard train car with a turret that has only one synergy right now, and that's the tenderizer, which requires you to use another train car skill that has an active activation, and that would allow you to lead for the lead car to fire 2 additional bullets in a spread for 6 seconds. I didn't have the item to show it to you, but hopefully you kind of get the idea of what that means. The train car in general is very underwhelming, and there is gonna be a rework for all of the train skills on a skill by skill basis, and eventually all train skills would get revamped, and hopefully it doesn't feel as wonky as it did, but the train already underwent a lot of transformations and reworks, so Extra knows that it needs some more work. Next would be the Flamethrower Car, which is a train car that has a passive and an active like all other train cars except the build train. So there's the Doom pipe, which can be used to make it always gain their endurance bonus and to not spend endurance when you activate it. And then there's again the tenderizer, and then the cosmic gauntlets, which allows you, when using any train car active skill, which is on the skill bar, the next melee attack within 5 seconds causing a flame burst, dealing 80% weapon damage. And this is for kind of like either a basic attack with train or for a slammer attack with a train, kind of like a hybrid build. And Flamethrower Car used to be one of my favorite skills from the trains. In fact, it used to be my favorite train car skill. Together with Shield Car, it used to be very strong to give you both damage and damage reduction in a build. Right now I'm not sure whether it's as strong. Hopefully it is. I'm gonna play more with it eventually and tell you. Right now Mortar Car is something that seems to have gotten a little bit stronger than before. Again, the same items, the Doom Pipe, the Tenderizer and the Cosmic Gauntlets can provide synergies. You can see that with the endurance bonuses it seems to be shooting faster, and that seems to be pretty fun to see those mortars proccing more often. Again, trains in general seem a little bit underwhelming compared to the Slammer X Lineage 3. It seems to be still a nice skill. I really wish they would rework the train so I could use Mortar together with Flamethrower. It would have been just a great synergy. So hopefully we see ways to synergize Shield Car with Shotgonne, which we can't right now, and to synergize Flamethrower with Mortar for a more flame-centric build with the Flaming Destroyer, for example. It's still a good skill, but again, compared to some of the things I've been seeing on the Slammer 3, it definitely needs to be looked into. Now, Schocking Rounds is a car that you can use with any other car to add up to 3 cars along with the basic turret. And this is nice. It's the newest car skill back from update I think 10 when it was released. I can't remember exactly the update number, but yeah, it's a decent train car because it just makes your main car stronger. So it's not really getting 4 cars, you're getting 4 skills but not 4 cars. You're still gonna be getting 2 cars plus the basic, and the basic one gets imbued with Schocking Rounds, and you have an active version of the skill as well. Here the synergies would be the Tenderizer and the Cosmic Gauntlets, because this does have a active but it doesn't have an item specifically dedicated to it. So you can still kind of get some sort of interesting synergies with it, especially since that's the basic card that gets imbued with the Schocking Rounds. So with the Tenderizer, you're imbuing the Schocking Rounds of the basic car. In general, it still feels kind of underwhelming, but I guess I still haven't tested much with like 30 plus 40 enemies with that car. Next is the Shield Car. The Shield Car is great for survivability. There's something that seems to be a bug, and I've reported it just in case. That allows you to get that 50% damage reduction when you're next to the car and you activate it, but then when you leave the Shield Car, you get 90% damage reduction, and then this icon there at the bottom, the purple one, seems to persist even after the active skill has been removed, even after I've removed Shield Car from my setup, as you probably saw in the recordings of the other car videos that I've been showing up until now. So there's things that are wrong with the car, but in general it's a great car that would provide you with 10% damage reduction when near the train, and when you activate the skill another 50%, which should be a total of 60. I get a total of 50, and when I leave that big bubble, I should keep that 50% damage reduction, lose the 10% near the train, but right now I do get a 90, and that's kind of interesting. So Shotgonne Car is the next car I want to show you, and you can see right now I don't have the Shield Car in my skill bar, but I still get the Shield Car buff as I was talking about it. With this car and the Shield Car, you get the Shotgunner's Shield as a synergy, which makes it always gain their endurance bonus. Do not spend endurance when using the active skill. You still have the Tenderizer and Cosmic Gauntlets. This is a very nice car. I really enjoy it for mobbing, for close range mobbing, and it also has that piercing active round, which is pretty nice. And yeah, with the next 3 attacks, it fires hook shots after activating the endurance, so it's pretty nice to have something like that in your arsenal. So Shotgonne and Flamethrower Car might be your DPS setup. I really used to love playing such a DPS setup when I don't need Shield Car for survivability, or when I don't need Mortar. It's not a bad car, but again, I can't wait to see what Extra will do with the train upgrades. And let's move on to Ghost Train, which used to be a lineage skill, which now is renamed to Slammer Skill 3. And now this benefits from conductor bonuses, so unfortunately I'm not taking it in my AoE master builds. But this is a great addition to any conductor enthusiasts who want to make a train build but still have some sort of non-train car skill out there for damage. I used to play hybrid builds where I would take this from the lineage tree, and then from the conductor tree I would take my train. It used to be nice because of the range, and look at that endurance bonus, making it spawn 3 phantom ghost trains in a straight line. And then with the phantom buffer, it allows you to summon an ancestral spirit when you cast Ghost Train. I haven't seen what it is, but I'm assuming it's the one you would see in Flying Picks, just maybe one that uses just basic hammer attacks instead of throwing Flying Picks. And this kind of concludes the conductor tree. Now let's move on to Blasting Charge, one of the skills I really like from the Slammer tree. This inflicts vulnerability on the enemies, making them take more damage, and with the tier 1 bonus you can make them take even more damage, and when you upgrade it to tier 2 you can even get the damage reduction in melee combat. With the endurance bonus you can throw 3 dynamites instead of 1, and with this blast breaker item, which I have and which on the footage you're seeing I'm using, you throw you throw the 3 dynamites without consuming endurance, which is pretty nice, an amazing item in my book. So I strongly suggest, if you're going for a Slammer 3, to use this and to get at least the tier 1 bonus, even if you don't get the tier 2. I personally prefer getting both tier 1 and 2 for this skill. And that brings us to Lantern Flash, another great skill which I think should be on non-Slammer builds as well as Slammer builds. The same way Blasting Charge is great for non-Slammer builds as well as Slammer builds. So this one with the tier 2 bonus makes you get a passive bonus that gives you 65% extra damage versus stunned, blinded or swowed targets. And you can blind targets with this, and you can also swow them with Spike Drive. And here's the synergy. Some people might not know how this works, but this doesn't mean you get extra damage with just this skill. You get extra damage with any skill, even with basic attacks. So regardless whether you're using a train, this skill or another slammer skill or basic attacks, you're still going to be doing 65% damage versus stunned, blinded or swowed targets. And pound can also stun, so if you're using busting charge, this one, pound, spike drive, in the same build, it's gonna be amazing as a synergy with all the crowd control and all the damage to those enemies. You can see it also even did nice damage. So hammer spin is a nice skill that gives you a little bit of damage, but its main purpose is to actually give you survivability and to give you mobility escape mechanic. So it moves you away, knocking back enemies on the way to the travel, like a fast charge forward. And with a maxed out tier 3 upgrade, you get, as you can see, 50% damage reduction shield for 6 seconds, which is amazing. The movement speed buff with the tier 1 bonus is amazing too, and the endurance bonus allows you to gain charges of pound, busting charge and flying picks. So that's pretty nice, pretty nice synergy for a slammer build. It's a skill I can't see myself playing without, regardless on what build I am. Just the same way I think about binding flash, lantern flash and busting charge. And this brings us to the next endurance skill, which would be something I haven't played much since the changes, but that's flying picks, and flying picks now seems much more useful than before. First, the skill no longer costs endurance, but rather has 2 charges, and it might be a little bit more spammy at times. Then you have things like those ancestral spirits that you can see. Sometimes you can get 2 of those up, attacking the enemy as you do. Maybe there's a way to get it to have 3 of those at the same time, with enough synergizing of the cooldown resets and so on with that endurance usage. But it's definitely nice because it's 3 of you attacking the same enemy. Maybe it's gonna be very nice on like level 30, 40, 50, 60, etc. with a good build against bosses. I still haven't tested enough with this skill, so I would need to do more testing. But with this stinging wing item that you saw earlier, you can make it also do poison instead of bleeding, so you have options for poison or bleeding builds with this one. And now we get Pound, a basic slammer build skill, which you can learn at level 1 or let's say at level 2 on a Railmaster. Pretty strong skill later on when you gear up and get some good synergies happening. It might seem underwhelming at first, but I really love it, especially the fact that I can stun with it when I get the tier 1 bonus. And it's interesting for basic attack builds with the endurance bonus. With the endurance bonus you can get very strong basic attack builds if you synergize the right items. And then you have the Berserk Crusher, which gives your Spike Drive and Pound an additional charge, meaning Spike Drive gets 2 and Pound gets 1, and that's one item boosting 2 skills. And I think slammer build enthusiasts would really love having that item in their setup, regardless whether you're wearing it or checking it into the Legendarium, and the Crusher is definitely an item worth getting. And now let's talk about Spike Drive, another skill that benefits from the item I mentioned earlier, the Berserk Crusher. And also, if you remember, if you've seen the Lantern Flash segment, I mentioned that this one swows, and it can benefit from the tier 2 passive of Lantern Flash, regardless whether you're using Lantern Flash in your skill bar or not. You can still get that extra damage to swow targets, and you can swow with Spike Drive. And if you have 2 charges of the skill, you can apply swow with the first charge, and then with the second one from the Berserk Crusher you can just do more damage. It's an amazing skill to have in a slammer setup, so I do recommend using this one at least for a while to test it. This brings us to Torque's Wing, some skill I didn't play much with, but I did play with it and ended up replacing it with with spike drive. It's something that I really wanted to have, something that works like hammer spin but does damage, and this kind of does work like hammer spin, except it just the swing around you. But it also has an endurance bonus that lets you throw a hammer in front of you that does extra damage to the enemies, and that's a lot of damage. And I think with this skill you would be able to do a ton of damage with the right items, with the right setup. So it's a skill that I need to test some more, but I definitely suggest testing it yourself to see if you like it or not. This kind of were all the skills. I hope the information and the videos, the footage helps you figure out whether you want to be using either of those skills in your builds, and whether you want to be using some of the synergy items that I showed you. Of course, also check in the legendarium for some other legendary items you might want to input into your build. If you want to get notified for more content about this game or others like it, or various different types of RPGs, say RPGs, tactical RPGs, all sorts of RPGs, or other types of looters, you could subscribe to my channel, get that bell button clicked to not miss those notifications. Thanks again for watching the video, folks. Keep it cool, and until next time, goodbye.